What is up, everyone? Today we're going to be doing a tier list of the decks for Pokemon 151. Not too much changes, but there is some interesting new cards that are introduced, such as Charmander that does a ton of damage, or not damage, is bigger, has 70 HP. We have Mew EX entering the format, which is one of the more crucial cards actually for the format. And then we have that's kind of it, I guess. Grabber and Mew, pretty much, maybe. But today we're going to do a tier list of what I think is going to be happening in the next couple regionals. Peoria, Sacramento, Lille, and Toronto are the next four regionals, and I believe those are the only four in our format until we get Paradox Rift, which I'm very excited for. Hopefully I'll be able to cover some Paradox Rift content for you guys on the channel before we head to Brazil for the Sao Paulo International Championship. But before that, let's jump into a tier list where I tell you, as a Pokemon noob, a man who has no qualifications to tell you what decks are good and what decks are bad, where they're going to fall. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. Just take a quick moment to do that. It would help out the channel a ton. Now let's jump right into it. Palkia, I probably assume is like Palkia, Chien-Pao, Barrel stuff. I probably put that into tier 2 just because I don't think it's necessarily bad because you have a lot of firepower and can swing for a ton of damage, but I don't think it's necessarily like a real deck. I think Arc Umbreon falls into tier 2. I think all Arc decks fall into tier 2 just because Starbirth is such a powerful ability that you can play the game and have favorable matchups. I don't know if Dura is necessarily a good card still, but I think in general, the idea behind just Arc being powerful, Bright Look being on Umbreon is just very strong. Same with Arc Drago. Like I think this is, actually no, this one goes into tier 3. Like this is one of the few Arc decks that goes into tier 3. I think just because I don't think Drago actually like wins that many matchups for you, and you add this extra layer of inconsistency to your deck where you have to now put cards into your discard as well on top of like setting up. So yeah, same with Arc Guja. I think Arc Guja doesn't really have any good matchups right now. Like you set up, you build this big attacker up, and you're like, hey Guja, get in there, and then all of a sudden you lose to Lugia, you lose to I mean, I guess Lost Box is probably fine, but they just rope and like do stuff, or they just Sableye you, and you don't have Moisture Star because you already have to use Starbirth, so it's a whole mess. Arc Pidgeot, probably tier 2. I don't know what Arc Pidgeot is supposed to be paired with, but I guess Arc Pidgeot plus Friends, I don't know. It seems solid. You have a way to get 2 cards at any time, and then a way to get 1 card at any time. That's pretty insane, actually. Arc Tita, probably still tier 2. I don't really think that the deck is necessarily insane right now because it loses a lot of matchups, but Judge Path is very strong. You don't really have a great Charizard matchup, and I think your Mew matchup and Guardy matchup are still very suspect, but Judge Path is very, very good, I think. I don't know why we'd add Superior to the mix. I think, like, yes, we have a one-shot potential, but if you're going to play, like, Arctina, I guess you could just put in, like, another random Grass V that does enough damage, but I guess Charizard has 330, which is a lot of HP, so you got to work. I think Charizard Glade is tier 1. I think that the Glade engine is a lot stronger than people give it credit for. It did top 8 a Champions League in Japan and then kind of fell off the face of the earth. But I do think that the engine is very, very strong. If you actually get to set up behind all of your pieces in a best of 3 format, it's probably stronger than people give it credit for. Same with Arc, Pidgeot, Arceus, that's the word I'm looking for. Charizard. So like same thing. Like you have so many cards to kind of set up. I played it for Cups this back-to-back weekend, or Cup and Challenge this past weekend. You guys can check that out on the channel as well. Where I explained why I think this deck is just overall incredibly powerful and does so much in one turn that I think it's like very much like incredibly powerful for what it is and what it can do. Chien-Pao goes into tier 2, I think, just because Chien-Pao doesn't really have the damage potential that other decks really can offer. And it just has consistency issues where you have to like have all these pieces fall into your lap in one turn, and if they don't, you kind of lose the game. Darkrai goes into Rogue because I really don't know what goes into a Darkrai deck right now. I just don't understand it, so it's going to go there. I think Mew goes into tier 3 for the first time in its lifetime because I think there's too many dark decks, too many things that put Mew in a bad spot, especially DTE Mew. Like, I would put this in like the bottom of tier 3 unironically because I just don't think the deck can really hold a candle to what needs to be done. I think tier 1 goes into Gardevoir. I think Gardevoir is still an incredibly powerful deck. I think adding Mew EX makes your threat level a lot higher now that you can like bring up a Greninja, copy it. You could one-shot a T-Tar back. You can take out a Zard EX if you need to. Like, you have a lot of like new potential plays that you can make with Mew EX that are unexplored, and I think like that's gonna go a long way. Like, even against Tina, you can just bring this guy up and throw it into Tina's face, and they lose. Urshi Intel goes into tier 3, I think. 70 HP basics becoming more prevalent, bigger guys coming into the format makes Urshi Intel lose some of its better matchups. I think that's saying a lot. I think this goes into tier 2 just because I don't really know what Aerodactyl does. So yeah, that's my answer. Single Strike, or sorry, Colorless Lugia I think is a tier 1 deck. I think any, like both Single Strike and Colorless, I don't know, this is going here. Single Strike and Colorless are both very, very powerful because getting Archeops out and just playing your game plan is very strong. One sacrifices the power of one-shots and the typing advantage for one prizers. And I think that's completely fine because you still have Weird Ear to close out the game, and Mew X does a ton of damage as well. And you can throw in something like a Luxray for a mirror match, whatever you want to do. Colorless Lugia has a lot more space to work with, whereas Single Strike Lugia gets like kind of tunnel visioned on the cards they have to play, and it just makes it so one list is a lot more rigid than the other. Lost Box Zard, I think, is tier 1 as well. I don't know exactly how like much better it is than regular. Actually, no, tier 2. Tier 2! I'm sorry. Tier 2. Lost Box Zard is tier 2 just because I think that you're not better than any traditional Lost Box. I don't think you have the draws of Tina. Like, you're just playing Zard, but you're playing like a weird hybrid where like you're not playing like real Zard, you're not playing real Lost Box, so you just kind of end up in a spot where the deck isn't real. Gudra, Rogue, not a real deck. I don't think it's good. I think Kyogre goes into tier 1. I think Kyogre is in a spot where it is poised to do very, very well. I'm not entirely sure if it will actually deliver because the deck is very difficult to play, but I think it is poised to do well. I think Tina goes into BDIF territory. I think Tina is probably the best deck in format right now. The 10% of like the games where Tina sets up, it's a tier 7 deck, tier 0 deck, and then when it doesn't set up, it's like a tier 15 deck where it's like, put this in the dumpster, don't ever see it like the light of day again. Like, I hope this deck isn't real. So I think Tina has the highest upside because you have Judge Path, Roxanne Path to kind of close out games, and Star Requiem plus whatever else you need to do is like insane because one Tina can take 4 prizes, so you can actually fall pretty far behind to win the game. I think Sablezard goes into tier 3 just because you don't have Greninja to get card advantage compared to the other Lost Box variants, and I think that actually goes a long way where like you just don't get to play the game like other decks do. And you're more susceptible to Ionos and stuff like that because you need to put like multiple Sableyes into play. Like, you're basically just a Sableye deck that's hoping that you can play up until you get to Zard, but like Path is really hard for you to deal with. Ionos are really hard for you to deal with. A deck like Urshifu is impossible for you to deal with. I don't think you ever beat Lugia. Like, it's just hard. Meowscarada is a rogue deck. I don't really think it's good. I think Fusion Mew goes into tier 2. I think it's not tier 3, but I think it can still win games off of a lot of these decks, including Zard. But that being said, I think Fusion Mew does struggle against every single deck in the tier 1 category. I think you can't beat either of the Zards. I think Guardy is very difficult. Both Lugias, I think, should beat you unless you win them on turn 1. I think Kyogre is like a near impossible matchup. So I think that's why it's in tier 2. I don't think it can deal with any of these decks up in the tier 1 and up category. I think Miraidon, I'll give Miraidon some respect and put this in tier 1. Bottom of tier 1, though. It's like a tier 1.5 deck. Getting Mew EX is actually a huge boon for the deck, I think. The Zapdos I don't really like buy into, but the Mew EX is really good, and Miraidon has been dominating quite a bit in the local scene, so I do think this is quite good. Miraidon Lakey is rogue. I don't think people will play it. Same with Stoice, same with Arbok, and same with Wigglytuff and Venomoth. These are all new decks that I haven't explored too much. Stoice is one I think I would like to put time into, and same with Arbok, but these 3 are just bad in general. Turbo Lost Box goes into tier 1 because it's just always been so powerful at what it's supposed to do. And it'll get the job done. Like, it's just one of those decks. T-Tar I have not played with, but I do want to try this deck because it's really bulky, but it's tier 3 right now. Murkrow is tier rogue as well. And then this Charizard build probably goes in tier 3 because I'm assuming there's no supporting cast for what it's trying to do. And then on top of that, it's just one of those decks where, like, how are you getting like 3 Charizards out to play the game without a supporting cast? And how are you doing this with all this energy? So, yep. This is kind of the decks that I think are going to be good. Like, if you're going to pick up the game and try to pick up a deck or stick to one deck for the next month, something in tier 2 or above is my recommendation. Tier 3 and rogue I wouldn't touch unless you're going like a challenge or a cup or something to have fun, but tier 1, tier 2, and BDIF are the best categories here for me, especially heading out to regionals. Let me know what deck you're leaning towards. I don't know what I'm leaning towards. It'll probably be something in tier 1 or BDIF category. Like, it's one of these two I'll lean into. Like, I think everything in tier 2 is like a deck that I personally would not play that's not maybe Chanpao. Like, that's the only thing I could consider myself playing. But yeah, All that being said, thank you guys for watching. That's my official tier list for the Pokemon 151 set. Peace out.